Are you ever sitting around smoking your pipe and just thinking, I wonder what it's like to be Gribbs? So you thought from the title this was going to be about being a parent to a neurodivergent child, right? No, this is my neurodivergence. This is all about me. And can we just talk about the term for a second, neurodivergent? I had never heard this before I had a child who was neurodivergent, and then I'm sitting in these meetings with these psychologists, they're diagnosing my child, and I'm like, why is this neurodivergent? This is totally normal. And they're all looking at me like, so then I'm talking to my therapist, and I'm like, you think I might have this alphabet soup of mental disorders? She's like, well, you might be neurodivergent in a lot. I'm like, whoa. You guys made this term up because it's impolite to just call people crazy. So yeah, not only am I crazy, I have to live with the fact that I've passed all my crazy onto my kid. So you want to know what it's like? Let's talk about what it's like. Let me set the stage here. I'm sleeping last night, right? I'm minding my own business. Asleep. Setting aside for a second the fact that since I've reached middle age, I have debilitating insomnia and I can never go to sleep before 2 in the freaking morning. And I'm just laying there in bed with my wife. We're snoozing away, right? It's a real like Ma and her kerchief and I in my cap kind of moment. We're just sleeping our asses off. I'm sleeping like it's my job. It's the kind of sleep where you don't even know how good it is until you are forcibly pulled from it by your offspring. So picture it, here we go. All right, it's dark, I'm completely dead asleep, I'm drooling all over my pillow, and then deep into my subconscious mind permeates the sound of the pitter-patter of my adorable little 9-year-old's feet. Except I'm so deeply asleep that the part of my brain that grabs onto this sound first is my amygdala. And instead of being approached by my 9-year-old, it thinks I'm being approached by like a 7-foot-tall home-invading rapist with a particular fondness for fat photographers. And then he finally speaks, right? And I realize it's him. And now he's not even talking to me, right? He knows I'm useless at this point. Now he's talking to his mother, and I hear him say, Mama? But of course my amygdala hears him say, Mama! So then my wife, the saint, she doesn't even get out of bed. She levitates out of bed because there is no water on the floor for her to walk on. That's how fine a woman I tricked into marrying me. And she goes around to where he's like on his side of this. He's trying to talk to her in my ear. Right? We're on the opposite side. So he's like, Mama, but it's like, Mama! And so there I am. I've got my eyes shut as tight as I possibly can, trying to hang on to any semblance of sleep I can possibly retain. And she's like, what's wrong, sweetie? And he's like, I think I'm peeing blood. It's fine. Actually, this is totally normal in my house. This is what it's like to be me. My son inherited my brain, and so he's constantly worried about everything. And one of the things that he's super obsessed with is blood. He's terrified of blood ever since he skinned his knee 2 summers ago at summer camp. And now everything is about blood. He's pooping blood, he's peeing blood, blood's coming out of his ears, he's drooling blood, he's crying blood, blood is spurting out of his nose. But even though this is totally normal, I'm half asleep and my amygdala is throbbing like the heart at the end of Contra, the Red Falcon heart. Remember that thing? And I know I'm just screwed, right? Like I'm never getting back to sleep. And I'm taking all of my willpower not to roll over in bed and be like, listen, you little shit, you're not peeing blood, you're thinking blood. My wife at this point is meditating like a Buddhist monk. The pillows are floating around her and she's like, it's okay, honey, I've got it. So she takes him into the bathroom. She's like, you know, I don't think you're peeing blood, but let's just check. Let's check. We'll just check. So I lay back down with the relief of the parent that is off duty during the crisis. You know, like if you've been there, it's like a total thing. You're like, oh, they've got it. It's not me, they've got it. And so I like pull the pillow over my head, you know, and I got my eyes closed and I'm drifting back off, but then my amygdala can still hear the whispers. You know, I'm falling asleep and it's like, we'll go right to the hospital. No. What? Don't wake Papa up. We'll call the ambulance. Maybe they won't run the siren. So then I jolt wide awake and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I look over and she's like already back to sleep and he's like already back to sleep. I'm like, what's going on? Look at the clock. It's like 4:45 in the morning. I'm like, did any of that actually happen? So I like shake my wife awake and I'm like, God, what's going on? What, are we going to the hospital? What's happening? What, he's peeing blood? And she's like, no, he's not peeing blood. He's just a little anxious. And I'm like, oh, he's a little anxious. What about me? No, I get it. You're supposed to comfort your kid, right? But I've been living with this brain for 42 years, right? The inherent nature of parenting is unfairness, right? It's completely unfair because when am I gonna ever be able to wake this kid up and be like, hey, I think I'm peeing blood? You can't do that. Can you imagine you're 9 years old and you're sleeping and you like the lights come on, your dad's there with like a pipe and a bottle of bourbon, like, kid, I really am peeing blood this time. We gotta go. This is yet another Gribbly's Folly Sunday antisocial hour. That time each week when I smoke my pipe and complain about humanity, while answering all of its questions. If you're a piece of humanity with a question for me, comments down below, hashtag AskGribs. I get to complain a little bit more here. This is my channel, I can do whatever the hell I want. I know that some of you think that I'm ignoring you when I don't answer your questions, and in some cases that's true, but in a lot of cases, it's just, you've heard me say this for years, the YouTube comment system is trash. And it even gaslights me. I've been doing this, what, how long now? 9 years. It gaslights me into thinking I'm the one that doesn't have my shit together. But the other day, I took a screenshot of this. So if you're not a content creator, you don't know how this works, you get comments, right? And they're all lined up, and then there's these filters held for review. There's, you filter by comments you haven't responded to yet. So if you're doing a question and answer video like I am, you can see your questions easier. But then there's this other tab that's like, these comments are hidden for whatever reason, and every now and then I go over there and it's usually just spam or people being dicks or anything like that. But I do check it just to make sure, because like sometimes someone will send me a link and it thinks it's spam, so I do check it. I checked the other day and there's this little message at the bottom that's like, comments here are deleted after 60 days or something. There's a comment there from 6 years ago. 6 years! Someone left me a comment. I never got it. I never saw it in my like held for review comments. And all of a sudden it pops up 6 years later and it was a nice comment. Thank you, whoever that was 6 years ago. It's very disconcerting when you're a guy like me that wants to make sure I don't miss anything. Like if I'm ignoring you on purpose, that's fine. But I want to make sure you didn't say something nice or like leave me your phone number because you want to be a comforting presence in the middle of the night when I think I'm peeing blood. I didn't make a video, no, that's not true. I did make a video last week. I posted that video of the trail cam stuff in the woods. It was high art. It was amazing. No one commented, no one gives a shit. You guys just want to hear me bitch. That's all it is. Are you living vicariously through me? Do you need your own neurodivergence? So yeah, no video last week. This week, it's gonna be late because I am timing this video. I'm timing this video to compete with the Super Bowl. I think Taylor Swift needs to be brought down a notch, and I'm the guy to do it. Raise your hand. Leave me a comment if you think Taylor Swift is, what is it? A deep state operative? Is that what she's up to? But just let me know. Let me know. We will talk about it next time. Well, I didn't post one of these videos because I worked a big wedding and then I got sick. And I wasn't in the mood to smoke. And if I make a video without smoking, people bitch about that too. It's like, it's not even enough that I get on here and I pour my neurodivergent soul out. You want to see me pouring it out while I'm smoking a pipe. That's the only thing that makes anybody happy. Well, here you are. Here's my pipe today. This is my Country Gentleman. I threw away my Dagner. And I took the band off the Dagner. We're gonna have to zoom in, aren't we? I always forget to do this at the beginning of the video and then the middle of the, yeah, there we go. We gotta do it here. So I took the band off the Dagner and I put it on this and I gave it a jaunty Danish bit. And this was the pipe that, hang on, am I ever gonna get it back in focus? You don't care. No one wants to see my face in focus. This was the pipe that Fireplug sent to me way back in the day. And Fireplug, I've been thinking about you because I wondered if you started posting videos. And then I wondered, did he leave me a comment that YouTube didn't actually show me? That's what I wondered at 5 in the morning. Because I couldn't go back to sleep. In this pipe, I am smoking something that is going to piss everyone off. I am smoking a mixture. Are you ready? It's gonna anger both the codgers and the purists. I am smoking a mixture of McClellan's 3 Oaks Syrian and Carter Hall. And it is actually very, very nice. I felt that the Syrian did not have enough. There was something lacking. There was something lacking. And I also feel that Carter Hall doesn't quite have enough to it. Carter Hall, we've talked about this, so I'm not gonna talk about it anymore. Shut up, Gribs. Don't get into it. Anyway, I got this comment from Copper Ridge Grow 3940. None of the knockoff reblends taste like the originals. I only smoke the Prince and Carter Hall. I used to like Sir Walter Raleigh, but I haven't been able to get it locally for 2 years or so. I don't order. I like buying my stash in person. I'm completely satisfied with smoking the 2 blends mentioned forever. I burn through 8 to 12 bowls a day. Sir, that is the most codger comment I have ever gotten on this channel, and that's saying a lot. Well done. Curmudgeon Piper, sit down so I can answer your question. A Curmudgeon Piper asked Gribs. So if I were to consider sending you a Jeep Wrangler, which I'm not, why not? Just at least consider, all right, okay. Would you be able to guarantee that you would not put any stupid rubber ducks on the dashboard of said Jeep Wrangler. Talk about douchebags, stop it with the freaking ducks, dadgummit. Yeah, I will, do you want it in writing? I will send certified mail. Certified mail, I will send you a contract. I don't understand the ducks. I've never gotten this. Where did the ducks come from? But while we're on this subject, let's talk about this. Speaking of going to my therapist's office, I go to my therapist's office every now and then. Mostly it's virtual because ain't nobody got time for that. And every time I go, there's this snazzy, super shiny red, high-end Jeep Wrangler parked outside of her office. Now her office is in like a business park, and so I don't think it's another patient. If it is another patient, clearly they're crazier than I am, or at least more of a douchebag. When did Jeep Wranglers become luxury vehicles? Like, the whole reason I wanted a Jeep Wrangler back in the day was so that I could roll it over in the woods and not care. Like, you could take the drain plugs out of the floorboard and wash it out with a hose. But now, since Hummers aren't a thing anymore, it's like the high-end Jeeps have become the new Hummer, and they're really big. Like the 4-door Jeep Wrangler. Dude, just get a minivan. Just lift your minivan. Just like make it like the Gravedigger minivan. I shouldn't say this stuff. I'm gonna get like people come into my house with those damn rubber ducks in their freaking pristine, shining, glowing glitter Jeeps. Les Brady says, did you say you'd read Blood Meridian or hadn't yet? What is with the blood today? What? Come on. Les, you're not Do you think Cormac McCarthy ever woke his parents up in the middle of the night and was like, Mom, I think my meridian's bleeding? But we did get a couple of comments about Blood Meridian. I read most of Blood Meridian. Okay. I should just lie. I should just say I've read it, shouldn't I? I read until the part with the vampire bats. That was weird. And I stopped reading then. Was it because of blood? It might have been. I'm just gonna have to send this whole video to my therapist, aren't I? I have read Outer Dark, No Country for Old Men. Everyone told me not to read The Road because I have a son. And so I listened to that. There are some things, I have learned a little bit about having this brain in the past 4 decades, and I do know my limits. I have Blood Meridian, I have the entire trilogy, and I should go back and read it. Not that I have read a book in years and years and years. My mom, for Christmas, gave me the Warren Zanes book called... Did you hear that? That was one of those Jeeps, wasn't it? My mom gave me the new Warren Zanes book about Springsteen's Nebraska album. The book is called Deliver Me From Nowhere. I've started reading it. I've gotten about 20 pages in. I know that's as far as I'm gonna get, but it seems really good. Pins and Fins says, here are my questions for the week. Jesus hung out with some fishermen guys. That's true. I like to fish. If Jesus was going to go fly fishing with you, would he be a nerd and fly fish, or a super nerd and use tenkara? Furthermore, what fly would Jesus use? This is a tough question because we know that the disciples fished from boats with nets. But we also know, as previously mentioned, Jesus can walk on water. So I picture Jesus, he's like sitting in the back of the boat, you know, like tying some flies, and then he just, you know, he's like, yeah, you guys are doing great, and then he just kind of walks away and goes fishing by himself in a little hole they can't get to with the boat. In terms of flies, I'm pretty sure the Lord would fish with like a size 16 Adams. Maybe a teeny nymph, but I don't know if he would do it in front of the disciples. You know, he's got a reputation to keep up. Martin Stinsby says, thanks for the answer. I will not even begin to discuss personal taste in music. Yours is at least as valid as mine. This, Martin, I see what you're doing. Yeah, yours is at least as valid as mine. Sure, okay, I get it. Even though Judas Priest were the founders of heavy metal. No, Martin, no. Here, these are fighting words. Opinions are fine, Martin. We can disagree about opinions, but objective fact, Black Sabbath's Black Sabbath came out in February 1970, was recorded 16 October, one day, 16 October 1969. That was the day heavy metal was born. I'm sorry. We can disagree about so much. This is fact. I'm not that big a Sabbath fan. I do like those first few albums. Ozzy is not my favorite person, but although I do really appreciate what he said about Kanye West recently. You gotta realize, man, when Ozzy Osbourne is the voice of reason, the other guy is really correct. Neurodivergent. I read up on the history of that first Sabbath album last year, and it's the kind of thing that's like simultaneously really inspiring and also really defeating, because They were nobody. They were a bunch of like, you know, English losers. Excuse me. Not everyone in England is a loser, but you know what I mean. They were who they were, and they had this psychedelic blues band that wasn't getting any traction. And they were like in a studio, and they looked outside, and they saw the title of a movie with Boris Karloff, I believe, called Black Sabbath. And they were like, what if we change things up a little bit? And then they got a contract. They recorded the album in one day. Do you know how much I overwork everything in my life? One day changed the face of music forever. Totally different vibe. No one had ever heard anything like it before. It still holds up. And it was recorded in, you know, like, I mean, I could probably record a better sounding album in my garage, producing it myself. But I couldn't come up with that vibe. Because I am the most open-minded guy you will ever meet in your entire life. Martin, tell me which Judas Priest albums I should listen to, and I will listen to them at least as much as I read books. On that spooky note, we have saved the best for last. Rafa left a comment. This is close to my heart. Rafa says, in many horror stories, the protagonists are trying to do X so that the devil or whatnot will appear to them. For example, in Costa Rica, where I'm from, they say if you go into the forest at midnight and find the nest of a turkey vulture, the devil will appear to you. Then it all ends in tears. I don't get it. What did they think was going to happen? Who would want the devil to appear to them? This seems to hold also for evildoers. What kind of help did they think they would get? There's so many things I want to say about this. We were talking a lot about religion 2 weeks ago, and I've been thinking a lot about Old Testament stuff and how germane the Old Testament is today. The Old Testament is crazy, y'all. Like there's things that happen in the Old Testament don't make any sense at all. And yet, this story, the idea of either innocent, kind of well-meaning people or people, monkey's paw kind of people, they're seeking some goal and they don't care who they got to bargain with to get it. This is pervasive throughout human history, right? The idea in ancient Judaism, the idea of creating a golem. I recently went down a Wikipedia rabbit hole about something called the demon core. And I'm gonna butcher it, I'm not gonna get everything right here, but the demon core was the spherical plutonium core of a hydrogen bomb. So like after they dropped the bombs on Japan in 45 and then going into the late 40s, they had this prototype, I don't know, maybe it wasn't a hydrogen bomb, they had this prototype nuclear core left over. So just a big ball of plutonium, maybe this big. So they're all sitting around at Los Alamos, like talking about, you know, they do experiments on the plutonium, and they've got like this core, and it's shaped. It's basically a sphere, but it's cut in half, hemispherical. And it's on a hinge. You can open it and close it. And on the bottom side, it is convex, and on the top, it's concave, so that it fits together in a way that squishes all the plutonium together nuclearly and makes a criticality. You have the smartest people in the world working on this thing, trying to figure out how they can make a better bomb. These bombs have just killed tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people. We know they work. We know they're the most deadly thing. Changing history, they are so deadly. The scientists on this team have worked their entire lives to get here and to be the ones working on this project. If you've seen Oppenheimer, you kind of know about this, but Oppenheimer wasn't involved in this because he was kicked out. So they got the plutonium demon core sitting on the table, right? And they're doing all these experiments to see how far they can get it, how close they can get it to closing without killing everyone in the room, right? Without making it so radioactive, so instantaneously that everyone just dies. And there's this whole procedure about how they're supposed to do this with an apparatus using shims to keep it open. Because if it closes, big problems. Do they use the apparatus? No. No, they don't. The smartest scientists in the world keep it open with the blade of a flathead screwdriver. And that's how they do all their experiments. That's what they do. This thing that has killed all these untold numbers of people, they're using a screwdriver to prop it open. And Enrico Fermi, Richard Feynman, they come to see the experiments and they leave and they're like, I don't think you guys should be doing it. Like, this is a bad idea. They're all these famous scientists are on record being like, this is bound to kill someone. Like, what are you doing? But the people involved, there was specifically a physicist named Slaughton. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. You know, they did it every day. They're used to it, right? Nothing's going to happen to them. They're the best at this in the whole world. And then one day, Slotin is adjusting the opening of the demon core with a screwdriver, and it slips and closes and goes critical, and everyone in the room gets irradiated. Slotin dies a horrible death. Everybody else dies early of cancer. You know, that sort of thing. What did you think was going to happen? It's called the demon core. Think of the story of the Pharaoh and the Hebrews, right? So Moses shows up to the Pharaoh and he's like, hey, let my people go. Pharaoh's like, dude, my whole economy is based on slavery. I can't let your people go. Parallels in other parts of history too. But anyway, and Moses is like, hey, you see my staff here? Check it out. Now it's a snake. And the Pharaoh is like, no, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed. Like, let's put this in personal terms. What if I showed up to your house and I'm like, hey, I need you to give me $1 million. And you're like, I don't even have $1 million, dude. And I'm like, check it out. My stick just became a snake. I don't know about you, but I would be like, let me go find my checkbook. That's not enough. Hey, Pharaoh, look out the window. Check it out. The Nile is full of blood. Not impressed. Back to the blood thing again. Anyway, I'm fascinated by this. I'm fascinated by this idea that not only do we seek out that which is almost supernaturally dangerous, we then don't treat it with respect. And this is what we're seeing. It's an election year, right? And so apparently the themes of this video are crazy people, blood, and more crazy people, because look at what's going on. The former president of the United States just came out and said, yeah, I would encourage Russia to just do whatever you want with these NATO nations that aren't paying their dues. The former president of the United States! People are lined up to vote for this guy. What do you think you're gonna get out of this? That's taking it to some bigger levels. But Rafa, if you like the ghost story aspect of this, I'll put a link down below. The Chilluminati podcast recently did an episode on ritual hauntings. So I don't know what it was like in Costa Rica, but growing up in white suburban America, we had this idea of Bloody Mary. You would go into the bathroom at night, you would stare at your own eyes in the mirror, and you would repeat the name Bloody Mary until the ghost of Bloody Mary appeared to you. Why would you want to do that? Who thought that's a good idea? No one understands. No one knows why we want to do this, but it's a big thing. And that episode of that podcast got into both older and more modern hauntings like this, where you participate in a ritual to bring the haunting onto yourself for some reason. One of these things is called the elevator game. And it's like a meme that has appeared recently, the last 10 years or so on Reddit and 4chan and all that. And it's this idea of if you do this certain ritual with an elevator and a skyscraper and you go to these floors in a certain order, you will step out into another world. But if you're not careful, you won't be able to get back. It sounds really silly. It's very, very silly. And yet, all these commenters reply like, hey, I tried it, it worked. Or I tried it, it didn't work. Why would you try it? Why would you try that? Like, what exactly do you think you're gonna gain from finding some other subspace of reality that you might not be able to escape from? I don't know. But apparently the same thing plays out over and over again in human history. And that's all I got today. I'm a little creeped out, actually. Enjoy the sports ball thing if that's what you like. Thank you for watching. I'll see you sometime soon. Keep the ends out for the ties that bind.